You moved to Miami because staying was starting to feel like a medical condition. Back home, you had a lease expiring, a job you'd mentally quit 6 months before you actually quit it, and a group chat that mostly existed to remind you how ordinary everything had become. Someone posted a reel. Ocean Drive at sunset, the water going pink and gold, a playlist that made even the traffic look cinematic. You watched it 4 times in one sitting. That was your entire research process. You packed 2 suitcases, paid the $200 early termination fee on your phone plan, and bought a one-way ticket to Fort Lauderdale because Miami flights were $80 more, and you were already living like the math would work itself out. The plan was loose by design. Find an apartment, get work, figure it out. 3 steps, 0 specifics. Welcome to Miami. Population 450,000 in the city proper, 6 million. In the metro. Number of people expecting you, 0. The flight was full of people who'd clearly made better decisions about luggage. Your suitcases were overweight. You paid the $70 overage fee without checking your account balance. You were already committed to a strategy of dealing with consequences later. The Fort Lauderdale airport smelled like rental car counters and the specific desperation of people trying to figure out how to get south. You got a Hyundai Elantra because it was available, and $35 a day was cheaper than the alternatives. The GPS took you down I-95, and you understood immediately that this city was not going to be a gentle introduction. The traffic moved like a creature with many conflicting opinions about direction. People changed lanes without checking mirrors. Someone tailgated you aggressively for 2 miles before passing you and immediately slowing down. You thought about turning around. You didn't. You merged onto Alapata Road and the landscape shifted. No more highways and rental car franchises. Actual neighborhoods with actual people doing actual things. Laundromats and colmadones and a mural of a woman's face covering an entire building. You stopped at a red light and someone knocked on your window asking if you wanted to buy a phone charger from a bucket. You said no. The light turned green. This, you thought, is different. Your first week is an education in rent. You knew Miami was expensive. You had read the articles, seen the graphs, heard the complaints from people who'd been priced out of Wynwood and were now living in Hialeah and calling it a lateral move. You thought you were prepared. You were not prepared. A studio in Brickell starts at $2,200 a month. Not a nice studio. A studio where the kitchen counter is also the dining table, and the building's main amenity is one rooftop pool shared by 400 residents who all want it on the same Saturday. You look at Little Havana because someone on Reddit called it authentic and up and coming. Authentic means the signage is half in Spanish and you don't speak Spanish yet. Up and coming means the rent is only $1,800 and climbing. You find a 1-bedroom in Alapata, northwest of downtown, a neighborhood the listings describe as transitional. Transitional means it used to be one thing and hasn't decided what it wants to be next. The apartment is on the 2nd floor of a building last renovated during the Clinton administration. The walls are concrete block painted the color of old teeth. The windows have accordion shutters folded against them that the landlord says are for hurricanes. You ask when the last hurricane hit. He shrugs like that's a philosophical question. Rent is $1,650 a month. You sign the lease before someone else does. The apartment has a window unit AC bolted into the wall that sounds like a shopping cart falling down a flight of stairs. It runs constantly. Not because you're cold, because Miami in August is not a climate. It's a sustained atmospheric event. The humidity sits around 85% from May through October, which means stepping outside feels like opening a dishwasher mid-cycle. Your clothes are damp before you reach the car. Your hair makes decisions, no product, addresses. The sun by 10 a.m. is not decorative. It presses down on everything with the focused intensity of something that has a point to make. You buy SPF 50 in bulk. You learn to run errands before 9 or after 7. The hours between are a negotiation you stop winning. You discover that a lot of the city shuts down at 6 p.m., not because of policy, but because attempting to move through Miami in July heat is something only tourists and people without a choice attempt. The mall closes early. The outdoor markets close early. Even the bank tellers seem to move slower in the afternoon, as if the weather has negotiated a slower pace with everyone simultaneously. You adapt without deciding to. Your body just stops wanting to do things between 2 and 5. You eat your second breakfast at 11 a.m. You do your chores before noon. You sit in the AC unit's hurricane roar and read or work until the light changes and the city becomes briefly inhabitable again. This is not living according to some grander principle. This is just the contract Miami makes with you. Follow its schedule or suffer the consequences. The building has 12 units. Nobody talks to anybody. You learn your neighbors by sound. The man above you drags furniture at 11 p.m. for reasons that remain unknowable. The couple to your left argues in rapid-fire Spanish with the fluency of people who've been having the same argument for years. The woman below has a small dog that barks at the ceiling, which means it's barking at you, which you choose not to take personally. You introduce yourself in the hallway twice. Both times, the neighbor smiles, nods, and disappears behind a closed door before you finish your sentence. This is not rudeness. This is Miami. Everyone is from somewhere else. Everyone is mid-transition. Nobody has the bandwidth for new people yet. The job is remote. Content coordination for a company based in Austin that makes project management software nobody in your life has heard of. The pay is $52,000 a year. That looks different on paper than it does after rent. And FPL, Florida Power and Light, your electric company, which bills you $190 a month because the AC runs 8 months out of 12, or you accept becoming a liquid. Add the parking spot at $75 extra, because nothing in this city accounts for the fact that you need a car. Internet is $65. Your phone is still $85 a month, even after the early termination fee. You have a Costco membership that costs $65 upfront to save money on groceries that you mostly don't end up buying because bulk cereal and single portions don't align. After all of it, you're left with about $1,100 a month for food and everything else. $37 a day. In a city where a sit-down lunch costs $18 before tip and a bag of groceries requires a moment of silence at checkout. You find the President Supermarket on 27th Avenue. Cuban staples, prices that make sense, a contained chaos that keeps things moving, yuca, plantains, black beans, white rice, a rotisserie chicken for $8 that feeds you through 2 days of your strategic. You become strategic. You eat the same 4 meals on rotation with the calm efficiency of someone who has stopped romanticizing dinner. This is fine. This is practical. You say this until it becomes true. The loneliness is a specific Miami flavor, not the gray, quiet kind you'd get in a city with actual winters, where everyone retreats and you at least have an excuse. Miami's loneliness happens in full sunlight. You are surrounded by people having a loud and photogenic time. The beach is 20 minutes away and you've been once. Not because you don't want to go, because going alone at 27 feels like something you'd have to explain. The social architecture here runs on tables of 10. Bottle service. A crew. You don't have a crew. You have Wi-Fi and a Spotify playlist and a Tuesday ritual of walking. To the Padrino's Bakery, 2 blocks over for a café con leche and a pastelito de guayaba. The guy behind the counter is named Ernesto. He's maybe 65, moves like he has opinions about how quickly people should expect coffee to arrive, and makes the best café con leche you've had since you got here, which is the only sentence you've said with any conviction in months. The pastelito is $1.75. Flaky pastry, guava paste, a small quantity of cream cheese. You eat it standing at the counter, and for 4 minutes, you are not thinking about your burn rate or your lease or whether this city was a mistake. You go back Wednesday and Thursday. Ernesto notices on the third week. Not warmly, not like a movie. He notices the way someone notices a regular. He starts having your order ready when he sees you push through the door. He doesn't know your name. You don't know his, not yet. You read it off his name tag one Thursday, and it feels like learning a word for something you didn't have a word for before. He asks where you're from. You tell him. He nods with the expression of a man who has heard many places and found them all equally reasonable. You ask how long he's been in Miami. He says since before you were born, probably. You laugh. It's the first time you've laughed at something a real person said in 3 weeks, and the specific weight of that fact lands somewhere around the sternum. You start talking to Ernesto, not deeply, consistently. You tell him you can't parse the traffic pattern on 836 westbound. He explains it with the patience of someone who has long resigned himself to the fact that nobody will ever figure out 836 westbound. You tell him your Spanish is non-existent and you feel it daily. He teaches you words by pointing at things in the pastry case. Pastelito, croqueta, medianoche, pan cubano. You repeat them badly. He corrects you without softening the correction, which is more respectful than being told you're doing great when you're clearly not doing great. You start picking up the practical street version. Enough to tell the parking attendant you'll be 5 minutes. Enough to order at the Ventanita window without pointing. It's not fluency. It's the beginning of presence. One morning, Ernesto teaches you the word for the feeling you've been having since you arrived. He points to his chest and says, añoranza, with the particular seriousness he reserves for important words. Longing for something that isn't quite homesickness, but close. A missing of something you can't name. You nod. That's exactly it. Having a word for it changes something small, but significant about carrying it. Miami has a rhythm that takes 3 months to even hear. It doesn't announce itself. There's the Miami of Brickell, glass towers, and rooftop bars, and wardrobes that contain exclusively business casual and athleisure with nothing between. There's the Miami of Calle Ocho, dominoes on folding tables outside the restaurant, a mural of Celia Cruz covering an entire building, old men in guayaberas discussing things with the gravity of heads of state. There's the Miami of Wynwood, spray-painted walls and $22 cocktails, and a Thursday gallery line like contemporary art is rationed. There's the Miami of Opa-locka and the Miami of Coral Gables with its banyan canopied streets and Spanish Mediterranean houses set back from the road like they have nothing to prove. All of it is Miami. None of it coheres. That's not a problem. That's the point. You stop trying to understand it as one place. You start treating it as many. That adjustment alone makes the city more livable. You find the Venetian pool in Coral Gables on a slow Sunday. Former coral rock quarry turned public swimming pool in 1923. Waterfalls, caves, loggias, $15 to get in. You float in the water for 2 hours without looking at your phone. It's the most genuinely good you've felt since you landed. You go back the following Sunday, and the Sunday after that. You start to recognize other regular people. An older woman with a reading glasses chain who swims the same lanes every weekend. A man with a tattoo of a manatee who treads water and people watches. A group of teenagers who come to pose for photos, but actually get in the water and laugh. You never speak to any of them, but you see them and they see you. And there's something about shared ritual that doesn't require conversation. You learn that the pool is where Miami lets itself be something other than ambitious. Here, people float and exist, and nobody is trying to monetize or optimize or turn themselves into content. It's the most Cuban thing about the city, maybe. The understanding that some things should be left as simple pleasure. 6 months in, and the city shows you its actual face. Not the real version, the real one. The traffic on I-95 southbound at 5 p.m. is not a traffic jam. It's a philosophical position. Miami telling you that time is not a resource you manage here. You learn to leave 45 minutes early or accept arriving 45 minutes late and apologizing to nobody because the person you're meeting also left 45 minutes too late. This is understood. This is local knowledge. You get a library card from the Miami-Dade Public Library System and discover it has 49 branches, which is more than you expected from a city whose primary aesthetic is hedonism and financial aspiration. You read on your lunch break. You start writing again. Notes about the city, about Ernesto, about the couple arguing in Spanish through your left wall. Nothing structured, just accumulation. The hurricane comes in October. Category 1, downgraded twice before landfall. Still enough to knock out power in Alapata for 31 hours. You close the accordion shoe, tears for the first time. The apartment goes dark and loud. Rain like someone is pouring the ocean directly onto your roof. The AC unit rattles in its frame. You sit on your floor with a flashlight, a charged battery pack, and yesterday's rotisserie chicken, eating cold rice and beans in the dark while the city absorbs what the sky is doing to it. In the morning, the sun comes back like nothing happened. A palm frond is in the parking lot. The Padrino's is open. Ernesto is behind the counter. Your order is ready before you finish walking through the door. Your landlord raises the rent in November. Not by a little. $300. $1,950 a month now. You sit with the number for a week. You look at other places. Nothing in Alapata under $1,800 anymore. The transitional neighborhood has transitioned. You look further out, Hialeah at $1,600. North Miami at $1,700. The math comes out the same every time. You email the landlord and accept the increase because moving costs money and energy you don't have. You sign. You sit back down. You look at the two things hanging on your walls, a print from the Wynwood Market and a calendar you got free from the Presidente. This is home. You've stopped adding the word now to that sentence. It's just true without the qualifier. The remote job offers a raise in December. $4,000 more a year. You calculate it as $333 a month before it becomes $240 after everything. You use $80 of it to buy a real coffee maker. You use another $40 to buy a plant. You water it every morning before you open your laptop. It doesn't die. This feels significant in ways that are difficult to explain to people who haven't lived alone long enough to understand what it means when a plant doesn't die. Ernesto retires in February. No announcement. He's just not there one Tuesday morning. The woman at the counter is younger, faster, less interested in conversation. She hands you your order efficiently and moves to the next person. The pastelito is the same. The café con leche is the same. You stand at the counter and drink it, and something feels subtracted. Not dramatic, just smaller. You go back Thursday, same. You go back the following Tuesday, and the new woman smiles and says, she'll have it ready next time, and you thank her and mean it. It's not Ernesto, but it's something. In this city, something is the unit of measurement you've learned to work with. You stop waiting for Miami to feel the way the real looked. That version was always a product, a 60-second edit designed to make you feel a specific feeling that would then make you do a specific thing, which was move here and pay $1,950 a month and find out what the unedited version actually costs. What it costs is not just money, it's the willingness to exist somewhere without being received by it. Miami doesn't receive you. Miami allows you. There's a difference. Being allowed to stay, to figure it out, to build the routine, to find the pool on the Sunday when you need it is not nothing. It is smaller and more honest and more yours than anything that real was ever going to deliver. You know this now. It took 8 months and a retired baker and 31 hours without power to get here. But you know it. It's March again. almost a full year. You walk to the bakery in the morning. The air is already doing what Miami air does: wet, warm, immediate. The city is loud with itself, traffic, and music, and someone's generator still running 2 blocks over from a repair job nobody has finished. You push through the door. The woman behind the counter sees you coming and turns to the espresso machine before you say a word. She remembers. You put your money down. You take your cup. You stand in the particular light that comes through the bakery window at 8 a.m. In March, when the sun is still low enough that it's beautiful instead of punishing. And for a moment, the city outside the window looks almost exactly like the real.